Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Get Good. This time in the rookie division, we are back, and we are sorry for the inconvenience that any music might have caused you. I'm the Olamancer. With me, of course, is God Moxie. Paul Sathon is ready to club me with a bunch of golf clubs because I made fun of his music, and we are going into one hell of a game as Project Alpha take down Benchwarmers. So, tell us about these teams, Moxie.
Well, it's rookies, which means anything can and shall be happening in a couple of seconds. And I'm personally looking forward to this, Ollie, because when you have patch changes, you have one thing coming through. Every single main who got a buff suddenly just fights that team tooth and claw to play Genji. And we saw Genji steal the show in the last series. He may be stealing the show in this series because, well, look at what these heroes like to run. There's a lot of Annas, a lot of Lucio coming out from what we're seeing from Benchwarmers that they like to run, which means that perhaps we'll get to see a Sound Barrier come in to combat a Nana Blade. Perhaps not, because Lucio is apparently off the menu at the moment, which is such a shame. He's such a fun hero to play.
Well, a lot of people are a bit nervous to play Lucio with so much damage playing around and so much, very fast heroes being meted right now. We see a resurgence with the Genji changes, a resurgence of some good old fashioned jumping, good old fashioned, just going straight for that dive. And you know me, I love that. It's to me just lovely. When you have two teams that just dance around each other like a goat's composition, and then it's 5 seconds of fight, and then that's it. Or it's a fight of 2.5 minutes where no one dies. That's boring. If you have two dive compositions clashing on each other, it's always full of explosions, full of fast actions, full of rap guarding. So to me, and especially in a situation like this in a rookie division where you don't know what's going to happen, I'm already wagging my tail like a puppy. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this. And I am looking forward to what these teams are going to show us here in the first map. The first map, by the way, being Li Jiang Tower.
Well, see, this is the difference between color casters and play-by-play, right? When you've got fast-paced action, the play-by-play's like, "Yes! I get to talk really fast and shout extremely loudly," and the poor color caster just sitting huddled up in the corner going, "Please slow down." I've got to analyze all of this within seconds, and I think rookies are just the most fun to analyze, if you ask me, because some of the plays that we see, you only see coming in to the rookie division, and so I'm looking forward to seeing new combinations, what these guys are going to be bringing to the table up onto Gardens, and it looks like we might be going for a more traditional glance into Gardens. Fire is still extremely strong on this map, as we're just waiting for the players to properly come in, Ollie. But I know I like to see pharmacy on this map. What's your favorite DPS pair to pop up?
My favorite DPS pair on Li Jiang Tower is anything with a ball.
Oh, DPS though!
Ball, when played well, will have the highest DPS in the game. No, but seriously, when you go into a game like that, you want something that is a bit mid-range with a good utility, so something like an Ash, and something that will be all over the place. So preferably a Tracer. That is the kind of setup, especially here. Li Jiang's on Garden side is just for me the gold standard of DPSing. So we'll see whether or not we can expect something like that. We do see Yipian and Dosnan already on the Pharmacy combo, so they are going for the Sky Battle, which means that Shadow Titan and the Echo on the other side will have a little bit of a, well, work cut out for them. So Project Alpha is in blue today, and as the Benchwarmers in red are showing their own colors, and they're getting ready to get out of the gate here.
Well, no Tracer, but I do see two Tracer counters. McCree's on either side, so Nikidosian might be having a tough time surviving on that far, but likewise Shadow going to be looking extremely volatile
Oh, we
on
already
that
see
Echo.
both the Reinhardts going at it. Cat Scratch fighting Mr. Gummy. Mr. Gummy holding back, but Cat Scratch finally getting out. Echoed here on the sideline. Good sticky bombs coming in here for the Benchwarmers, who are in red and are now moving towards the point to get that real estate.
Nikidosian able to get 40%, 50% rather, to that Bowers. We're doing a whole lot of work, even though Icarus is there on that counter, on that McCree, with Shadow giving a little bit of extra pressure. Still going for the snoop into the window. Does not die, but gets a little bit of extra offcut for their troubles.
We do see Caesar being very low here in the backline. Backline under a lot of fire here for the Project Alpha right there. UK Dosen is able to get that immortality zone back in. Goes in, fights Holy Warrior. Nice shatter coming out of Cat Scratch, who is also nanoed. So this is the fight for the real estate. 3 versus 2 on the point straight away. Dosen being under fire here by Rice. High Noon on the other side by Ikaros. Gets Cat Scratch, and we do see that the Benchwarmers right now are setting this back up, holding on to that point, not giving up that real estate as if it was a brownstone in New York City. 50% on the clock.
And it was because it was such a long fight. Project Alpha really refused to disengage, even when the rest of the team were there. UK Dosium was still just trying to hammer in a couple of damage, couple of rockets in through that window. And so it wasn't clean. It was scrappy, and Benchwarmers managed to get 60% off the point off because of it. Yes, Project Alpha have ultimates. They can come in with the Graviton. They can combine it up with that barrage, but they have to get Capsa out of the way first. That Batiste can save the entire team with one tiny little ability.
Oh, Echo already being set up here. That's a good combination. The barrage to get over the Tobal scene. You can Echo ult as much as you want, but if you are suspended in midair, nothing will help you. And that's exactly what we are seeing right there. That was a nice ult combination, exactly at the right time. Well played.
It was a really nice pincer movement as well. UK Dosium goes from the other angle, drops him through the window to get the barrage in, while the rest of the team collapses on to Benchwarmers front. And even having 2 Reinhardt, Shadow had gone on to the duplication to try and have 2 shields to sandwich the team within safety. Just did not stand up to it. If you're Project Alpha though, you just use a whole host of ultimates. You've only got a Shadow. They've got to get close enough for you to use that one. And Gumi's going to be coming into a Shadow of his own with that immediate follow-up right with the Diva Bomb. The follow-up that Project Alpha is sadly lacking at the moment. And it's their final fight. If they lose a single time, they've already taken this loss on Garden.
Yeah, when you are Shadow Titan though, first you use your ultimate and get suspended in that Graviton. Then next up, you show your face near the bridge, you nearly get killed, and there is no way you actually get killed. And then at the third point, as soon as you send it up again, on the phone there, that was beautiful. That Diva Bomb setting it straight in. The Reinhardt unable to actually move far enough back, gets that shield crippled, and that's a triple kill straight away. That was timing there by Rice.
Cat Scratch was completely out of position, was on the other side of the point when the Diva Bomb comes through. And that's able to pick up too, and he even goes down to the Diva Bomb as well because he gets shattered and he's not able to turn. As soon as I saw the Diva Bomb came out, I sort of inwardly groaned, Ollie, because you need to have the Reinhardt there around the team so that he turns around with that shield and it finds value rather than everyone just scrambling away from both of it.
That's the biggest point, right? That Reinhardt was there. That Reinhardt is, going with the shield towards where that Diva Bomb is, but that shield was already so low, gets popped, triple kill, have a nice day, bye-bye, and you're going home in the body bag. So that is just what happened there, and if you are not communicating your shield health to your team, this is what happened.
Well, Alpha did have a little bit of a disconnect in that last fight as well. Sifa is back into the mix, so they will be fighting 6 strong, but Benchwarmers are already making their way towards that point, Ollie.
Ikaros is unable to make sure that the sky is clear, and that means Dosen finds the double kill here. Both of the DPS already going down here for the Benchwarmers. We do see Project Alpha moving in. Cat Scratch winning the Reinhardt fight, and that is just one hell of a move all the way to the point. And while the rest is sleeping in the respawn, you take the real estate. Actually, they're not taking it. They're not capping it for a second.
There we go. Point exists in Overwatch, Ollie, but only sometimes. Pause comes on through as well as that, so we can sort of talk about how you can set up for this next fight, because Dosian, 54% from the first fight all the way to a barrage. Not only that, but Icarus, the one who's the far counter who needs to be dealing with that DPS, went down in that fight so quickly, so early. We're really seeing that they're trying to take that DPS out of the way to pave the path for that Pharah to find the value, because this is something that you can use, right? Even if it doesn't pick up kills, it still burns out all of these really important abilities, things like Maywell, things like Rhine Shield, even a Moira Fade can be instrumental if you get them out of the way early enough.
And you do see Ikaros, you know, Ikaros being caught off guard by the off angle that Nuke Dosen used for their first setup. Immediately goes for the second of the Shadow Titan, and then this is what happens in the follow-up. Rise, though, this time getting out of a mech and immediately being popped up. We do see that the Benchwarmers under a lot of pressure as Project Alpha. They're just moving it in nearly all the way to the spawn. Luckily, they're not being followed up there.
Alpha have got follow-up, Ollie. That barrage that we talked about where it could just before bleed out abilities, it can get picks now, it can get kills because Catcratch has got the shatter, and once the hammer comes by, the barrage is going to be very quickly following afterwards.
See whether or not they're going to try it. That shatter is being dropped as Mr. Gummy charges into him and pushes him on that wall. Bad timing by Catcratch, bad timing for a shatter, and very lucky for Mr. Gummy, but nonetheless, very, very flashy. Yukosin now with a triple kill. Actually, it's a quadra if you count that big-ass mech, and VV Casper is biting the bullet as the last little bit. Yukosin, an absolute force to be reckoned with, and something you need to counter when you're on the Benchwarmer.
Well, Icarus is approaching that Deadeye, and that is just the immediate denier of pharmacy, right? Deadeye. If they're up in the sky, if the McCree is given the space, the time to actually connect the skulls to their heads, then that is immediately them gone. But Icarus, the space is not really there.
That's right, and we do see 85% on the clock right there. Project Alpha wants to have that equalizer. The high noon coming out of Ikaros. He dies to Yugdosin, but at least gets BP out of it. So now's a good chance to actually get that Farah out of that good shatter on that sideline. Diva Bomb coming in. This time Cat Scratches is ready for it. Tries it. There's the die with that Death Blossom onto Shadow Titan. The rest of it being eaten by the Diva. Well done, Yugdosin once again coming in with a barrage here. 2 targets already set up. The overtime is still running. It is still being held there by Ikaros, but no one else there to hold Project Alpha from the equalizer. And now we are in a proper housing fight.
Icarus's delay could have been huge. If he just stayed on the high ground, instead all of the team drops onto the courtyard, the McCree along with them, and he pops ultimate, not in front of the rain shield, not in front of any sort of natural cover in the open. He may have gotten Mercy, but he didn't get the Farah. And Mercy in the heyday of Overwatch, when it started, she would have been more than enough to keep the team up, but when you've only got 55 healing per second, that's not enough. That's not going to be doing anything in the face of Farah barrages, of Zarya's being fully charged up and just coming in and attacking. What should have been picking off the strongest DPS, unfortunately got one of the weaker members of the entire composition.
Let's see whether or not it is the Benchwarmers or the Project Alpha that can hold this up, because both of them showing great aggression. Speaking of aggression, look at Shadow Titan moving past that Reinhardt and going in there where he had the wall up. No one was actually being caught up for a second, so that could have been a bit of a miscalculation, but both of the teams get out of there unscathed. Now Cat Scratch moving his team forward, trying to make it happen, almost gets walled off yet again, but this fight is just very much back and forth. Cat Scratch very low right now, but so is Rise on the other side. Rise still hasn't lost it, and Cat Scratch, nice charge onto Holy Warrior. Yugdosin following it up on the other side. Mr. Gummy finally gets that Reinhardt off the point, so now it is time for the first ultimate. It's a tire, doesn't find a lot of targets. Good response here by Mr. Gummy with that shield, so well done, well defended on the sideline. It's 18% on the side for Team Alpha, but the Benchwarmers not done yet. It's Mr. Gummy once again with a good fire strike onto Cold Clip. Mr. Gummy, what was that charge? Actually gets fired over the shatter by Cat Scratch, who immediately goes down straight afterwards. That was crazy, and finally the Benchwarmers in control of the payload.
And Benchwarmers, well, now they can move where they want to be. They've got a Mei. Mei benefits from holding at the choke, but they're not pushing forward, Ollie. They're not using their best chance at keeping Alpha off this point. Icarus has got a Deadeye, sure, but that's not going to be anything other than boning. And Coded Eclipse has got the kill potential, has got the Graviton.
I mean, I'm still reeling from that from that shatter in combination with that charge. It was crazy. Now the coalescence coming out on both sides. 33 versus 26% on the odds. Now both of the coalescences are running. There's the high noon into the Tobal Steed. Yugdosin in with a big, massive tire. Takes down 3 of them as he is going with the Trash Rat. beautifully set up here. Project Alpha clear it out, and the Benchwarmers once again back to spawn. And this is a close fight if I've ever seen one.
Then I found nothing. Once again, it was used to sort of zone Alpha away, but unfortunately it didn't get the tire, and the tire was the thing that won Alpha that fight. And now Alpha, they're holding up the choke. They've got the sound barrier. Caesar, he has to stay alive long enough to connect it with the ground because Shadow's holding on to this blizzard, waiting eagerly to use it. And that's why Alpha are being extremely passive, even though they're still at this choke. They don't want to engage properly in until they see where that may is.
Oh, look at that! He can't get the blizzard out. Shadow Titan going too far in. He's going past that Reinhardt shield. Can't get the blizzard up. You hear the start of the voice line, and they are on the floor. Now that is something that just cannot happen.
They gave it away. That was the win condition. They will be coming in with a second one, Shatter and Diva Bomb, but this is going to be so much harder to set up because you're not relying on the team failing to react to something like a blizzard when it comes out, right? Coded Eclipse, Zarya, not a Diva, no defense matrix. If that blizzard had come on down, if it touched the floor, it would have guaranteed to pull Caesar's sound barrier out. Now, if you're Mr. Gummy, you need the mother of all shatters. Otherwise, it's going to be that final fight territory, and you will have no ultimates to come into this next fight with, no win condition to your name, and you'll be running up against a Shatter, a Graviton, a Coalesce, even a Junkrat tire, and you will have absolutely nothing to deal with any of them.
And you don't want that pause, especially on the side of Benchwarmers. You do not want this pause at this point when you have a little bit of an ult advantage. Both of the tanks are on the ultimate. You do see that Death Blossom on the other side, but you know, with that Shatter in your back pocket, usually you should not be very much afraid of that, unless you let that Reaper into your backline, which should not happen. But this pause, a technical pause, will take a little bit, which means that we will have to wait it out to see what is going on. But look at this team composition. We see more or less the same thing on the side of support, but everything else it's just crazy. Everything else is completely different. We see the Diva on the one side, we see the Zarya on the other side. And I have to say, Rise and that Diva is doing a lot of work. Jurian and Yugdosnin definitely did stronger DPS combination. Now, looking at Icarus and Shadow Titan, especially Shadow Titan, going way too far forward, standing on off angles that you should not be standing at, and basically throwing away not only the Blizzard, but a couple of ultimates. This is absolutely crazy and should not be happening. So let's put yourself in the coach. You're the coach of the Benchwarmers. This is the pause that you cannot happen to have right now. How are you going to get your team back into gear, Moxie?
So you have to go for a split angle, right? Choke has two ways that you can approach this. Free if you can't just moving around the back. And that's something you can do because Holy's on that Lucio. You can absolutely just try to avoid choke entirely and speed boost your way onto point. Force the turnaround, force the rotation, and then you can put out this Shatter, this bomb, because you can't just waltz up to choke, throw down a Shatter, and expect that it's going to hit a couple of people, allowing you to send that Diva Bomb in. You have to set yourself up. And so what I would love to see is Rise go around the back, come in on that side door on the right, while Gumi just waltzes forward with that Reinhardt shield, with that very aggressive play, the speed boost coming on down. So even if Catsquatch moves to meet you, he's only 87% to his shadow. If you move fast enough, you should be able to get into position to use your ultimates before theirs comes online. Speed push your way past the enemy line, drop the shadow, in comes the Diva Bomb from that side door, catches out the team, and even Caesar trying to drop that sound barrier is not going to be enough to save yourself from the onslaught.
That's right. And we have just received words that there is some serious issue on one of the teams. So oh, actually, we are going back. Okay, problem has been solved. I'm terribly sorry. I was too fast even for my own production team. So we're jumping straight back in. Code Clips is actually just peeking in there, trying to get that fire strike. There's a Diva Bomb. That Diva Bomb could potentially be big, but there's a nice sound barrier holding it back. The Shatter on the follow-up right there. And now all the ultimates are just being followed up. That Jurian with the double kill takes Iguras and Mr. Gloomy. And it is right now Alpha holding this choke after, you know, what was a nice opener. That Diva Bomb, I really like the direction of that.
You liked it. I detested it. As soon as that Diva Bomb comes out, it's through main. It's not in the middle of the fight. It's not taking advantage of chaos. It's very easy for everyone to just hide behind not only the Reinhardt shield, but natural cover as well. And so maybe if you'd had that Rein coming through with that speed boost moving for the Shadow immediately after since the exclamation mark pops out, but no, they wait around far too long, and Shadow may have caught a couple people on their backs, but Diva Bomb had already been used already, and they didn't have an ultimate to pull out of the pocket to get the cleanup that was available for the other side. Death Blossom comes through, Diva Bomb's already been used up, Defense Matrix is away, and suddenly you're looking at a map loss.
Well, what I was wondering for a bit of a second right now, right? Yuk Dosnin, we've seen that in this play of the game. We've seen that all over the place. Seems to have a grasp of positioning that the rest of his own team and the other team don't seem to possess. Right now, what's how do you get to a point where you are basically in a position where you always have to be or always are at the right point in the right time, but still have a bit of a low SR? Is that a mechanical issue? Have you seen Yugdosnin play in a way where you go, well, there's a mechanical thing that's not gelling? Can you explain this to me? Because I have no explanation.
There's a lack of punishment. This Farah is in places Farah should not be, where Junkrat should not be, but Benchwarmers, they're not punishing him enough. They don't have the tools to punish him. The composition that they're running is very frontline heavy. They can't deal with flankers. They can't deal with anything on these sidelines. They have to barrel forward and hope that by barreling forward they erase everything else, and only then can they turn and deal with this guy when he's Farah, when he's Junkrat. What I wish I'd seen on Night Market was something like a Sigma, where you can just move that shield up into the sky and you don't have to be worrying about where he's going to be coming from and maneuvering yourself
Yeah.
around to position to deal with him. Instead, you just have to look in his general direction, position that shield where he's going to be coming from, and then just move on about with your day. And heading into Rialto, if Yugdoshin is once again sitting on the mantle of that pharmacy, then you have to have a Sigma in the mix, because we saw they tried to counter him with the McCree, and Icarus, he didn't even get to fly close to the sun, Ollie. Every single time his wings just got burned off by those Faro rockets.
I mean, Rialto is the perfect map to fire that in as well. It is open, it is fast, it has long sightlines, it has a big skybox. So I'm looking forward to fireworks. However, first of all, we are swapping colors. So Project Alpha in red now. On the blue side is the Benchwarmers. So I have to keep that in mind because otherwise I'm just going to talk too fast in weird colors. But second of all, Benchwarmers are not done yet. Benchwarmers, especially in that first round, have shown that they can do this thing. They are here. That means that they can do this thing. Also, yes, I see all the copy pastas, and yes, you guys are almost making me laugh. And no, I'm way too professional to actually do that. So sorry about that, boys and girls, but please keep trying. So we are 2 minutes away from the actual start of this thing, and I wanted to talk to you about the tank line for Benchwarmers, which I like better than the tank line for Project Alpha, and I will tell you exactly why I think that. I think that because Rise has shown that they are very good with the defense matrix. They are very good at keeping that back line, or at least being close to that back line, and making sure that they survive it. One way or another, whether or not it's just through body blocking or through defense matrixing or through any other means. And Mr. Gummy, is a better Reinhardt than I am, and I don't say that often, but he is a better Reinhardt than I am. There's aggression there, there's awareness there, there's shield management there. Fantastic, absolutely beautiful. So, what can this tank line do in order to get back at Project Alpha at this point in the game?
So you raise really good points. There's aggression there, but it's from the tanks. It's not from the rest of the team. The backline is very hesitant to move in, and when we see the DPS, there's always a disconnect. I think immediately the moment that jumps to mind, and this is going to be the same for a lot of people, is when that Mei runs in front of the Reinhardt shield to put the ultimate in. Because it's very obvious that is such a large telegraph of what's
Oh yeah,
about to come when a Mei runs headfirst into danger and you haven't seen a blizzard coming out before.
it
You
was
know that she's
it
going to be
was
reaching in her pocket to change the weather.
I mean, at
And
that point in time, coming out of that choke, running in front of that Reinhardt shield, I'm still shaking my head at that. That is just something that cannot happen. That is just something that cannot work. And I have to change the battery of my headset. So please talk about what we can expect at Rialto.
And that's the disconnect, and that I think is something that you see really strongly on those points like Control Center where the team has to be all in, everyone has to be moving with their tank lineup has to be pushing in the same direction, otherwise you're just not going to make headway. Rialto is a lot more open. It's got all of these weaving corridors, all of these flanking routes, all of these ways that DPS and even support sometimes can go for a couple of cheeky picks and very unexpected angles. And I think this is where Benchwarmers have the best shot at picking up a point, because we've seen they like to go for individual plays. They like to move a lot more fragmented around the map so that they encompass more space rather than amassing into certain pockets and taking it over. It's a risky play. It leaves them extremely vulnerable, treading on very thin ice because they just don't have that reinforcement that is there for Alpha. When they get pressured down, when they get poked down, there are so many members that do trustful exercises and catch the team when they fall. But if Benchwarmers can take up this space, can take up these angles, and if they go out with a Pharah, with a Widowmaker, they're going to have such a wonderful crossfire. Even Project Alpha hiding behind double shielding, they're still going to be pressured, and Icarus is going to have a really hard time of finding angles where he's not exposed.
Wait, isn't Project Alpha in red nowadays? Yes, they absolutely are. So there's a far mercy coming out of Project Alpha as they come out of the gate. We have already seen our observer showing us that bell, so it's ding ding round one. As we head into Rialto around the first corner, Catcratch already with a nice fire strike onto Holy Warrior, and that was beautifully set up as they kill the Immortality field and just push back the Benchwarmers. Icarus already going down. Mr. Gummy trying to keep that team alive and trying to keep it safe with the help of Rise on the other side, but there is no direct pressure here for that Far Mercy.
And you can see the rewards that Yugosin is getting away with, 72% to that barrage, and Icarus, the traditional Pharah counter, 46% lagging behind because they don't have the pocket, they don't have the damage boost, they have to get the shots and connect them in such a rapid speed, otherwise the Pharah doesn't go down.
Shadow Titan very low there for a second, actually goes toe-to-toe on that Echo with the tank line. Catcratch is just able to put the hammer onto them, and that is just not something that you want your Echo to do. You want your Echo either behind or above some targets, and you do see Code Clips and Catcratch making a lot of room here for Project Alpha as the Benchwarmers have to wake up from their stupor. They're going across the bridge, and that means that the next point fight will actually be here on that chokehold.
But it's not going to be on steps. Benchwarmers are taking the low ground. They are risking it themselves, Ollie, to be exposed by Yugosin, who is so close to that barrage. Caesar has got the nano as well, so you want that barrage to survive, you can pop that onto her backside and nothing will be able to bring it down.
Well, we do see that the high ground is now being taken by Rise and Mikaro. Rise's shield should be going down there, and Yugosin already knows that. Moving forward, there's the Valkyrie already moving in. There's the barrage! Fired in after a nice setup here by that front line. Beautifully played on the side of Code Clip and Caesar, who are just able to make sure that the kills are being picked up and the payload is moved on to point 2.
Rackets just aren't having good days on Rialto today, are they, Ollie? Each time they want to put Immortality Field in for something that gets a team wipe, they have to use it for something earlier. That Graviton burned it out of Oni, and he wasn't able to put it in for when the barrage comes through. The true damage dealer and Benchwarmers, they've got ultras to play around with. They're going to have a fair few. This is where they can really stop this payload in its tracks. It's see the map is in their favor, the respawns are in their favor, but they have to have something that grinds the
Oh, that traps are good though! Ikaro's already on the back, same goes for Mr. Gummy. Good Immortality Zone though, holding it up. Catcratch still finds Mr. Gummy on the sideline. Now though, has to pull back. That nano will not make you immortal, and that's what Catcratch just learned as Icarus picks up a double kill and stops the payload. Beautiful counterplay here by the Benchwarmers.
And this is where the payload stops. And it can stop for a very long time because Project Alpha, they have to intrude into space that's very clearly Benchwarmers at the moment. Benchwarmers, they can play for time. They've got a superchargers, they've got an amplification matrix. They can put those down onto main road before the fight properly starts, and that should have Alpha running with their tails between their legs.
I mean, this is the second hardest point to actually assault. Right after the Havana Castle, this is just terrifying to move in as an attacking team unless you have the momentum with you. Now, they've lost the momentum on the side of Project Alpha, and the Benchwarmers know that, and they are just making sure that they position everyone readily. Now, Holy Warrior and Shadow Titan kind of didn't get that memo there for a second, going down, and that means that Cat Scratch now can set up the momentum yet again, coming in from the sideline against 3 people, moving it in against Rise, gets that accretion into the face though, going low for a little bit of a second, but Alpha still in control of this. A bit of a miscommunication as both of the tank ultimates go into the same corner. That is being said though, both lovely, fantastic.
4C9, they weren't able to touch, they were all grabbed up by Coded Eclipse in the corner, and they didn't react, Ollie. Worse, they didn't initiate. They had the supercharges, they had the duplication. As soon as you walk out of spawn, you need to plonk both of those down, otherwise that payload is going to hit the finish line. You know that they've got a graviton. You know as soon as it comes out, even if it doesn't pick up the kills, it's going to force you away from the payload. And that's the true fight. If you're away from the payload, you're not stopping it from moving. You need to put the superchargers down. You need to stop the momentum. And they just held on too long.
They did that beautifully, but I still have my questions about, you know, both the graph coming out and then the shatter on the same corner. Hold that shatter back. Stand behind that payload as the Rhino. Either go all the way up front and block one of the entrances to that last room, or stay behind the payload, wait for the enemy come in. Okay, that graph didn't work out. Shatter the remainers and make sure that they cannot stall it out, because that was a high-risk play.
High risk, but it works. I mean, you can see where they were coming from. They figured no one would be able to touch because everyone was just clumped up in that graviton. Project Alpha, once again, looking to open things up with this pharmacy. Yuki testing has been so hard to shut down. Icarus is back on this McCree, but it's still, it feels like it's just not enough. You've tried to deal with it with that hit scan before, and now you need to double down on it. Shadow Titan's going to be on that echo, but only falls first, and that's the whole amount of healing gone.
That's right, but on the other side, Cat Scratch jumps down, tries to find some blood, but Holy Warrior stops that. Dosen is actually being taken out by Shadow Titan, and now Icarus has some time to actually play some hit scan, and that means Jurian goes down. That payload is still moving, and the Benchwarmers not warming anything, but being hot on the pursuit here.
You mentioned that Mr. Gumi was the better Rhine. And Cat Scratch definitely bit off more than he could chew. He should not have jumped down as quickly. The team was not ready, and they lost their Rhine, they lost their anchor, they lost all of their composition. Benchwarmers looking very strong at the moment.
They are, and they are not really ready to give up. On the other side, Cat Scratch is already back in, and you do see that front line already moving all the way in there, only very low in that immortality field. That will be going down any second soon, so you need to find a way to keep your team alive. Holy Warrior going down at the end as Dosen finds it on the sideline, but we do see Mr. Gummy and Rice, the better tank line, making the place, making the pressure, and making the space. And that is just the truth as it is, and that should be the capital first point.
Well, now we're gonna have the Rhino. This is the true decider, right? So who is the better Rhine? 2 shadows, 2 main tanks walk into a bar. Who is going to come out on top? Because there's follow-up for both of these teams.
Oh, that depends. Oh, Mr. Gummy, if he would have taken that fire strike all the way through there, that would have been nearly a double kill. Jurian and Cat Scratch very low, and if you can lead that in and not fire that into a pillar, that's dangerous right there.
Yuki doesn't actually swap off the barrage, so there goes the barrage follow-up.
I'm sorry, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you there with a scream, but it looked like that shatter was going anywhere. But both of these shields were straight in front of that and made sure that not more damage was actually being done. Jurian, though, with a nice double kill, which means right now, Project Alpha moving it back here, putting the Benchwarmers back on the sofa.
Oh, Benchwarmers, they're going to have a couple of toys to play around with in this fight, Ollie. And, well, it all starts with a shadow. You've still been holding on to this Cat Scratch through his in that last one, but you lost your Batiste again!
Oh, no.
This has to stop happening. You cannot push when you're missing a main support. Oni has to stay behind that Reinhardt shield. It's the May all over again.
I was about to say that. That's as if only learned their positioning from Shadow Titan when they play Mei. But you know, let's not be mean about that and just move it on. We now see the Benchwarmers trying to move it on yet again. There's a double steal, immediately followed on the other side by Diva Bomb. Another big one. Triple kill, setting it up. Ikaru's opening it up with the last bit of a follow-up, and Rise is opening the door yet again. The Benchwarmers have found their footing and are moving it on.
Well, they do have an amplification matrix and a Deadeye as well, Ollie, so they can still keep this momentum going, but they have to initiate. Amplification matrix and Deadeye have to be popped before Project Alpha can properly get a foot into this contest, because they've got a nano boost, they've got a shatter, and that can stop the payload.
High Noon coming out, trying to do something, not really finding a lot of targets there. Rise on the other side, and Shadow Titan though find their target. Beautifully set up on that set. Ikaru's basically just making sure that they're nice and tender for the rest of the team to actually be picked up. And this should be the .2 cap, and it is a bit slower than their counterparts, but it's still doable. 4 minutes 05 versus 3:53. So, you know, it's a doable time difference.
Well, they have to survive this next fight though, Ollie, because look at what Alpha are going to be coming into it with. Shatter and Dragon Strike, the setup, the follow through, and Benchwarmers, they need to eat that strike, but it's going to be so hard for the Diva to do. She's on her back!
Cat Scratch, what are you doing? And that Shatter is blocked in the main phase, almost going down there for that main tank. Mr. Gummy just firing it in onto Caesar with a nice setup, comes in with a Shatter from that back line and makes sure that Project Alpha are just sitting down. The Benchwarmers are there, and the Benchwarmers want that win just as much as their opposition do, and you can see that specifically in Mr. Gummy, who is hyper aggressive and hyper focused on getting things done.
Well, Project Alpha still have this Graviton, still have this Deadeye. It's not the follow through. Yugdoshin threw that Dragon Strike in a little bit later after the Shadow had already failed. You want that ultimate back, Ollie. That's your best bet at stopping this payload, but you might not need ultimates if you can just kill them with the traditional bullets and abilities.
Yeah, I expected as much. Shadow Titan already going down there after a nice storm arrow on the side of Yugdoshin, who has now forsaken the Pharah a while ago and is going on to the Hanzo, most likely just to be able to use Code Clips as Gravitons a bit better. And we do see Mr. Gummy trying to fire it in, but rather than forcing his team further forward, they are just deciding to have a bit of a hammer fling over that edge. There's a double steam coming in. High Noon already there as well. Durian on the other side goes down though to Shadow Titan. There's the counter High Noon just to make some room. Now Shadow Titan, after a nice bit of shatterage, is able to fire that in and immediately follows it up with a second bit of Reinhardt play. Now Shadow Titan and Ikaros making space for the team. This payload still moving, 2 minutes on the clock, and this looks like money in the bank to me. What do you think?
Project Alpha, they've got the Shadow, and once again, Ollie, it finds little. The first time Ryan is gonna find nothing. The Ryan's already gone.
But there's the danger. Nulls Yugdoshin finds Oni yet again, who apparently is averse to moving out of danger. Shadow Titan with the double kill though. Mr. Gummy with the follow-up. Once again, we see the Benchwarmers holding it, clearing it out. 143. Not impossible, but quite the difference.
An improvement. If you go off how Benchwarmers played on Control Center, a massive improvement on Rialto, because we thought this would be the map that they would struggle against. This would be the map that Yugdoshin would be unstoppable on this Pharah. And well, he
was on the Pharah.
Oh, absolutely unstoppable on the Pharah, but swapping off to the hands of rookie mistakes. Those Dragon Strikes were coming through at some really questionable opportunities, because Cat Scratch had the Shatter, right? And so he puts it down and it finds nothing. And if it finds something, absolutely you want to invest that Dragon Strike through, that's the follow-up, but it finds nothing. And Yugdoshin waits, not only for the Shatter to have already found nothing, but for the Reinhardt to already be out of the action before sending the ultimate through. Benchwarmers still had the Immortality field up. It found literally nothing. Literally the absolute worst thing it could possibly have done, because Coded Eclipse was creeping to that Graviton. And everyone knows the true terror when Overwatch first started, the combination of all combinations, the Wombo combo, Graviton, Dragon Strike.
That's right, that's true. I have a bit of a question for you, by the way, right? We've seen Yugdoshin on a defensive situation playing the Junkrat. why not play the Junkrat on that last point? Make sure that you pop that Reinhardt shield, Mr. Gummy being one of the biggest threats on the enemy team, and just making sure that they can't even get close. Why is that not in the briefing?
Well, he's currently not playing the Junkrat right now for the exact reason. You want to have pressure on the front line. Junkrat can be very inaccurate. And Hansel with that buff, 60 to 70 damage from Storm Arrow, is a shield breaker once again.
That's right, now we are going in there, but the Reinhardt's fighting! Cat Scratch once again going too far forward, not watching their own health bar, maybe not even watching their own shield bar, going down there after a nice stun, and that means that Mr. Gummy can put his team further forward. Nice fire strike onto Yeepy. We do see the Benchwarmers now picking up that pace and going for that first round cap, and that is something that you don't want to see when you're Project Alpha. Have you seen that charge? That was crazy! Getting Cat Scratch off that, pushing another one nearly off to that set. He's only being saved by that little boat on the sideline, and that was... I don't have words for that. Mr. Gummy is just a train taking the team up on that road. Crazy!
Well, he's going to be playing Choo-Choo next because he's coming into the Shadow Ollie. And the team Benchwarmers, they've got more than enough follow-up. Even if the Deadeye doesn't work, you can just tuck an amplification. If it's 15 seconds left, they need to win this fight, otherwise it's just all over on Rialto.
High Noon already being fired out here on the side of Vicaros, just making sure that they have some space. Okay, a bit overflying here on Mr. Gummy. He goes in the back, gets a full shatter. He charges through the entire arcade over there, shatters the entire enemy team, and the Benchwarmers are just heating up right now. Immediately the Echo ultimate on the other side, making sure that that team is safe and making sure that there's always a Reinhardt in front of your backline. That's crazy. That's a crazy play, and I haven't seen a crazy play like that in a while.
But Alpha, they've got so many ultimates and Benchwarmers, they're only going to have a Rally and a Diva Bomb if they're lucky for when the free contest comes through. And it's overtime, Ollie. They can't move off the payload. Oni, he's got an immortality field, but that's only going to survive maybe 1-2 ultimates at most.
There we go. Tobal's team coming in. There's an immortality field. There's a Dragon Strike coming in on the other side. Immortality field not there. Right! With another double kill on the bomb. That was beautifully set up. Yugosin gets Oni and Shadow Titan out of that. So now things are getting interesting, especially with the bomb in the backline. Cat Scratch, nice fire strike on the double kill. The overtime wing now must be running through, but that is a long push to have.
It could have been longer, but unfortunately Benchwarmers threw everything into that final fight. They had to be honest. They needed to guarantee that that payload kept moving. When you've got 15 seconds, you need to win that fight. Otherwise, you're just not going to be able to get from respawn room to the payload in time to keep it possibly moving. But what saved that momentum there was the Bob. Without that Bob, was... No, not the bomb, the Bob. The Bob on the other side, on the defensive side, was the only reason why we are not looking at the Benchwarmers rolling into the gallery right now. That's the only reason. Because Rise's bomb was huge. That was the one thing. If Benchwarmers had been able to carry that momentum, that bomb allowed them. But the momentum was, you correctly pointed it out, shut down by the Bob.
It's just, you know, you have that that classic combination, the Graph with the Dragon onto there. They survive all of that. Fire a bomb over it, get 2Ks, and then the Bob comes out. Then opens up the way for Cat Scratch to go around the side, get that fire strike in there, and clear that one. Without that Bob, at that point, we would be looking at a full cap in overtime right now.
Well, it's going to be Project Alpha, 3 minutes 53 seconds on the clock for them to work with. It's a tough ask, Rialto. It's very hard to actually keep that payload pushing through, but these guys have been on fire in the previous match.
Okay, we'll see whether or not this is going to set any more speed records as we go into the next round there. Now, Project Alpha on the attacking side right now, and I am right now trying to figure out what's going on. I'm terribly sorry. We seem to have a bit of a technical error right now. So what we're going to do here is we are going to have to ask both of the teams to hold it for a bit of a second because they are in the middle of a fight which we cannot see right now. We have a technical tech on the we have a bit of a technical issue on the production site right now, and we are going to have to try and mend it. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere right now. I'm terribly sorry. I had to set it, have to get it up there for a second. And we seem to be back in action right now. We already see Shadow Titan. Shadow Titan now with a bit of a sticky bomb, trying to get it onto Cat Scratch. Has the Echo ultimate up and should be able to pop it whenever they want. They're waiting apparently for a bit more pressure. Now it comes the Reinhardt. The Reinhardt is coming in. Shadow Titan looking for some targets, going into the enemy team as it is the Benchwarmers trying to make something happen, but Shadow Titan Shatter not really finding a lot of targets on that sideline. Beautifully set up.
Project Alpha are coming into a whole bunch of ultimates though, Ollie, and they're going to have to contribute an awful lot because Coward can stop at this corner. Is one of the best places for the defenders to hold. One of the best places to set up a Shadow Bomb combination as well.
Well, we'll see whether or not they can. If they have the coordination for it, that would be beautiful. And we know that, you know, in theory, they should be able to pull something up. But remember, Yugdostin is still up there. Is still with that Pharah. Still has that big skybox to work with. Now this time, Mr. Gummy. Good pin. Finds Catback once again. And there's the Shatter. Takes it in there for a triple kill. Make sure that it stops 1 minute and I think 20 seconds on the clock. No, actually 10. Okay, this is a bit blocky, but I can work with this.
Benchwarmers, they use an awful lot in that fight, Ollie, and Alpha kept a hold of a fair few Graviton, Nano Boost, and Barrage. All these are platforms to set Yugdostin up for that ultimate.
Yeah, the Eva Bomb not finding a lot of targets here on the side of the Benchwarmers, but it was a good try, a good setup. Yugdostin in on the side, still has the barrage, trying to find the right target on that set. Mr. Gummy, though, once again with a good fire strike, this time taking out the target as they have to. This is just absolutely crazy. Project Alpha had a big lead after that first push, and it is being taken away from them as we speak. 30 seconds on the clock.
But they've still got this barrage, they've still got this nano boost. Cat Scratch is going to have the means to set that one up as well. They wanted to try to use the Graviton for it, but it didn't quite work out for the Pharah. Now, Benchwarmers, it's all up to Mr. Gummy. Can he block another one of these gases?
Well, he should be able to do that. We've seen him do it before, so, you know, the capability is there. Whether or not he is near enough to Cat Scratch in order to actually do that is a different thing. Ikaros, though, in the backline with that high noon, takes down two. That was good positioning on the side of Ikaros. I have had my doubts about him, but he is just earning the bacon. Beautifully set up, overtime, running down, and this, against all odds, Benchwarmers 0 take the win here.
And the Shadow came through. Cat Scratch managed to connect it with bodies. You know what didn't come through? The barrage, Ollie, the barrage wasn't there. The setup was there, and the DPS was missing, and now we get to see Icarus going for the play of the game. Jedi coming through. Oh,
look, just past that Rhine shield, we see Cat Scratch is too afraid to get that shield down for a second, then hold it back up just to get, you know, in the face of that McCree in time. Doesn't do that. Sick. Absolutely fantastically played. That was just great. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you may have noticed me saying before, we are running into a little bit of a technical hiccup. We are 1-1. So this is a very, very, very clutch line. And I don't think either of these teams are ready to give up anytime soon. Stick with us. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with more action as we go into round 3 of the rookie division here on Elo Hell Get Good. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. We are back and we are super stoked for what's about to come as Benchwarmers 0 are taking on Project Alpha. It's 1-1, both of them fighting their best fight, living their best life, setting it up. I'm the Olamancer. With me, of course, is Got Moxie, and we are going into something new. Moxie, why am I so excited?
I'm excited too. It's not King's Row!
It's
Get
not
the party
Kingsrow.
poppers, Ollie! Get the streamers! We did it! We finally found teams that don't want to go to King's Row!
Yes, that's right. We are going on to Hollywood. Now, normally when you want to get into Hollywood, you need to know someone or go to sleep with someone. But in this case, you just load the map up and have some really, really good times. So this is going to be absolutely fantastic. Now, Hollywood has distinct advantages, especially for the setup of Project Alpha, I have to say. I mean, Benchwarmers actually chose the map, but Project Alpha with that Pharah specialist should have more advantages out of that one. So why pick it then on their side? Please tell me.
So it's very strange that Farah can have a real impact on Hollywood. She can also be swept aside extremely easily. It's not like places like King's Row where she can find an insane amount of value in places like not just point A, but also street space, and sometimes even point C as well, where she's got a lot of high ground contests, can really pressure down your DPS if you want to run something like an Ashe or a Widowmaker. In Hollywood, she finds value in the first part of the map, and not even really the point itself. Because
Yeah.
point A is so open, there's no cover for the Pharah to hide behind if she wants to go into the fight. She risks not only her pocket's head, but her head as well. You can only duck behind that first initial high ground, and that's something a defending team can take advantage of. But an attacking team, it becomes a lot harder to find the value because all that's going to happen is you might get a 2-tap if you're lucky, but otherwise you're just going to be charging your enemy's support ultimates.
That's right. And well, that was quite eloquent. I expected something a little less, well, this is why, and more like, I don't know. So thanks, Moxie. Congratulations, you're a color caster. Well, so we are looking at the defensive setup here coming out of the ladies and gentlemen of the Benchwarmers. We do see Icarus once again on that McCree Shadow Titan taking up the Echo. The tank line, not a big surprise, and Holy Warrior and Oni going with what worked best for them. Now, I have to do a little bit of criticism right there on Oni specifically. Oni seems to have an issue where they are always in the wrong place. They're good with their immortality fields, they're good with their healing, but they just take so much damage, and I'm not entirely sure whether or not it's actually their fault as well.
Well, he will have a Brigida to hide behind this time around, so a little bit more survivability for the Batiste. Yuki Desian is again on this Hansel. We said the Pharah play was very good from this guy. Dragon's like as questionable as Oni's positioning, so if one of these guys has managed to fix that mistake, the team should be infinitely better. It's going to be a fight as both of these guys try to get picked. Coda Clubs manages to have the high chance, but does get pinned by the Reinhardt. Cat Stretch going down means that Project Alpha should be falling around the main tank. And there they go, kicked off the point. You do not want your Reinhardt to be going down first, and Ollie called him out about it. 72%, 73% of the way to an amplification matrix, survived the onslaught, kept the team alive, was almost up to that ultimate, and Project Alpha, they're lagging behind when it comes to that sound guard. Coalescence might not be enough to keep the team kicking when they go for the re-engage. Icarus, ping the Deadeye, doesn't pick up anything, just a zoning ultimate right now as Project Alpha try to move around the back. One ultimate that they have to see through gone. EP has this coalescence, but Oni's been holding on to this amplification matrix. The shadow comes out! It's huge! But Cat's is the one who picks up the Reinhardt for his collection! Coalescence gets dropped. EP just keeping everyone on the side of Project Alpha up and alive. You think they're just hammering a couple of arrows in, not being pressured at all by Benchwarmers as they're just trying to scurry away from their lives. Icarus picks up 2, but it will be Project Alpha picking up point A. Benchwarmers, they do have a duplicate, so they can try to go for this recon just the Echo is waiting in the wings for the team to regroup, but that's just going to herald an onslaught of ultimates coming out from Alpha. The duplication is down. Shadow tries good for the Shadow. It's blocked. It doesn't pick up anything. It's burning time off the bank. Sure, the Project Alpha, they're so reserved, so restrained with these ultimates. Only now is the graviton put through. Picks up the entire team, but the bomb, it deters the team from collapsing in on the vulnerable members of Benchwarmers. The Dragon Psychic comes through. It picks up 2. The support's both gone as Mr. Gumi is just waiting, trying to put the shatter in. Lucio against the Reinhardt. The Lucio's got the mobility. He can only hold his shield up and the supports. Everyone to the side of Alpha filtering back onto this point. Somehow Mr. Gumi was still standing long enough for Rice to get back into the action, filtering onto this point. Somehow still alive long enough to burn them down to 1 minute in the time bank. And Project Alpha, after such a long fight, they finally managed to pick up point A and get this payload moving and keep moving it might because Catcatch is waiting with this shatter. They don't have the follow-up, they don't have a Deadeye, they don't have a Dragon Strike, but they might not need it because Benchwarmers, they don't have anything to keep themselves alive if they go down. There's nothing outside of that immortality field, and Icarus might just have to pop this Deadeye defensively. During he's looking for this McCree's head. He wants to get that little bit of extra ult charge before Catcatch puts that hammer into the ground. But all of Benchwarmers are playing extremely passively, hiding behind, waiting for the right moment to engage, waiting for Oni to hit that amplification matrix. In comes the team, just waiting for the right moment. During he's got the Deadeye bolt up. Project Alpha, they waited long enough for the McCree, but it's Icarus who picks up the blood. Deacon falls, and Project Alpha falling around him as all of Benchwarmers press forward, press into the team, forcing Alpha almost back into their spawn. And my goodness, waiting for Cat Scratch's shadow to come through, waiting for Jurian to have that Deadeye really cost that team the aggression that these guys should have been coming into the fight with, should have been bearing down upon Benchwarmers with Caesar, with that speed, with that Lucio. They didn't initiate, they didn't find any value, and now they've been holding on to these ultimates. Benchwarmers, they've been holding on to ultimates themselves. There goes the shatter. Mr. Gumi puts the hammer down, but it finds nothing. Likewise, Cat Scratches picks up nothing as well, so now it's onto the DPS. Pick anything up. Amplification Matrix comes out onto the ground. So much of Benchwarmers, such a formidable force right now. Down goes Cat Scratch so early on. Caesar holding on to that sound barrier for so long. Didn't put it in to save the Reinhardt. Didn't put it in when Amplification Matrix comes on through, and the team pays the price. Waiting for ultimates, waiting for so long is really something that Alpha is having trouble with these past couple of fights. Yes, they're going to have that sound barrier for that aggression, but sound barrier might not be enough to save your team from a duplication.
That's right.
A bomb.
That's right, and with 1 minute 20, 19, 18 on the clock, we should see something happening right now. Project Alpha on the attack. The Dragon Strike is ready on Enrique Dosner, but that's a nice shatter firing it in there. And once again, the Benchwarmers absolutely in control of this fight.
Benchwarmers again able to control this fight because Alpha just wait far too long with these ultimates. Ollie Jurian's been holding on to this Deadeye for the past 3 fights in a row. Caesar likewise with this sound barrier. They're waiting for these right moments. They're waiting for Benchwarmers to mess up. But waiting isn't that down to 15 seconds on the clock. And it's going to be extremely hard to pull any of these ultimates off, especially with Oni just sitting there on that Batiste. So hard to kill. So hard for the team to get any value if that immortality field stays up and available.
Whether or not they can actually make something of that happen as Shadow Titan finds Jurian and Yuke Dosnan on the sideline here, and that's crazy.
Project Alpha, they're still holding on to these ultimates, Ollie. The sound barrier got used for Jurian, and Yuke Dosnan still having this Dragon Spike, still having this Deadeye. Cat Scratch has pulled up another shatter in the time that it's taken these DPS to even consider putting ultimates in, and it's the final fight, and now an amplification matrix, they've got to move through it, move past it onto the payload if they want to survive.
Oh! Cat Scratch actually tries to charge forwards towards that payload, is actually blocked out, and during the time that it was that we are seeing this thing in slow motion, gets a full shatter just a second too late, but you know, that's how these things happen.
Where was the aggression? Where was the ultimate usage? Deadeye is not something that you wait for that right moment to use. Deadeye, you throw it in, you hope to find a pick, you use it to buy space, you use it to allow your team to move on to that payload and set up in a better position if they're trying to re-engage into a fight that they've already lost. They held on to it for far too long.
That's right. And holding on to something far too long is a bit of the name of the game right now, for me at least. I'm terribly sorry, but we have to throw it for a little bit of a break while I get my bearings back. Thank you so much for covering for a second, and we will be right there when it happens. Thank you, and see ya. And we are straight back in, and we still have a good game for you. And we are still looking at the Benchwarmers versus Project Alpha. So, first of all, don't hate on the production. It was my fault. My computer just died. So, Moxie, what have I missed? Just
Well,
talk me through.
Alpha showed us some real cracks. The first cracks that I think we've seen from this team so far, they held on to Deadeye for 3, 4 fights in a row, Ollie, and I mentioned it enough, I'm sure, when I had to step in and play by play. But it is one of those ultimates where you don't hold on to it. It's not like something like a Blizzard or even a Graviton where you're looking for that moment where you need it to find value because it takes so long to build up to, where you need to have that time that it takes to get online convert into the reward that you actually gain when you put it in. Deadeye is something you throw in on a whim. You use it to zone, you pat yourself on the back if you're able to pick up a single kill with it. You don't hold on to it for 3 fights, 4 fights, enough times that your Reinhardt actually laps you in ult charge when it comes to building up
Oh
Shatter.
wow. Oh wow. Yeah, that is indecisiveness to say the least. Wow. That is that's a tough set. So we are looking at the first cap point being done. After just and the payload not moving in a lot. I just saw that when we went back in. So good hold on the defensive side here for a bit of a second, which means the bench warmers in a very good position to make their own dent into this, don't you think?
Absolutely, and strangely enough, it was actually Oni and his staying alive on that Batiste, having some really good immortality fields, not just that, the amplification matrices. We talked about how sometimes they hold on to these ultimates, sometimes they don't put them in when they perhaps should to
Yeah.
initiate. They heard us, Ollie, loud and clear. Amplification matrix was being plonked down onto that main road, putting so much pressure onto all of Alpha, and that was why they held on to their ultimates. Deadeye, Dragon Strike, both of those DPS held on to them for so long because they just didn't feel safe enough to actually use them because Oni was constantly there, constantly alive with that immortality field, which would have cancelled
Yeah.
out all of the value you could have gotten.
Well, I am very, very happy for well to hear that. And Oni, pat on the head. Good boy. Well done. So we'll figure out what is what's going to happen in 10 seconds. So on the defensive side now, this time Project Alpha have their work cut out for them. What do you think they are going to come out of the gate with?
This is a wacky one, right? Because it's rookie division, so some people have unique playstyle. If there's anywhere that we would see Bastion defense, I feel it would be rookie, but it's not to be, Ollie. My hopes are dashed. It's the McCree, it's the Ash, it's the more safer option, because if you lose point A, you don't have to swap your composition off, you don't have to reset your ultimate bars. It's probably the one that's going to find more value, but it also does sadden me a little bit. I love to see the Bastion composition come up because it can be very strong for the time that it's up. You can full hold with a Bastion composition, but as soon as that Bastion fails, the composition fails all around it, and you have to reset everything. And with that payload moving only just a little bit through B, you don't have time to rebuild ultimates when they get reset from zero.
That's right. So now we see the attackers coming out of the gate. No real surprises here in their setup. Both of the teams more or less playing what they are comfortable with. You've chosen this time on the McCree, though, on the defensive side. So that's the only change that I can see. And the second change is that Ikaros suddenly seems to win his duels over there. Yugdosen already on the floor, and Benchwarmers going in with the momentum that they've built up over the last game and a half, basically, as the capture is coming in. You see both of the tanks, Mystigami and Rice, making a lot of space there. The first third already being capped. Good charge onto Caesar right there. The Lucio already going down on the sideline. We do see that Code Slip and Cat Scratch find their respective targets, but at the end of the day, the Benchwarmers with a body advantage on that point. 2 versus 1. Now, finally, Code Clips, a very good Zarya, I might add, goes down, and that should be the cap 3 minutes on the clock.
Alpha have swapped. Jurian onto the Reaper, and this is a very strange swap because normally you send a Reaper in if you want to deal with a backline, right? If you want to deal with a Winston or a meaty target like a Roadhog. You don't send him into the midst of a McCree like Icarus, who's suddenly been hitting his shots and doing a whole amount. Deadeye already built up and top now, finding so much space.
Doesn't only make space, but also make sure that Caesar isn't there to do anything about that. Cat Scratch firing that shatter in there, doesn't really find a lot of targets. Mr. Gummy able to keep his team safe and to counter it, goes down in the process of that. He wasn't able to hold that shield and do a lot of damage, but the rest of the team moving in. Shadow Titan finds a target. On the other side though, the Reaper on Durian, I really do like the pick, but it doesn't really find all the value that you would expect it to. There it is, the window of opportunity. That's amplification matrix coming out. Mr. Gummy with a Nightfire strike through it, and this payload still moving.
And the Graviton was committed as well. Coded Eclipse just tried to chomp up the members of Benchwarmers who were lagging behind, but what does it do? Takes out your strongest ultimate, your strongest chance of stopping this payload, and all you need that chance right now. There's no doorstop, it's right there at the finish line.
Jurian is actually being stopped there by a nice setup by a Holy Warrior. Ikaros making able that UK Dozen can't find in. The only one still in there is Caesar trying to stall it out, and they just had to stagger in there, and that is just a very, very short way that that payload had to travel. So expected result maybe, but I'm missing the Alpha people, the Project Alpha people that we've seen in that first run. I'm missing the aggression. I'm missing the individual plays right now that we have seen earlier. It's 2-1 right now, and I want more. I just want, I don't know how you guys out there are feeling, but I need more of this. It's a Sunday night. It has been too lazy, and I have so much hype in me.
Well, Alpha, they had some real problems, both on their attack and on their defense, and strangely enough, it's the opposite problems. On their attack, they hold on to their ultimates for far too long. On their defense, Graviton should not have come out. You didn't have anyone really around you at the time. You'd already won the fight. It was just picking up stragglers. It actually forced Benchwarmers into a fight that they didn't feel like they were comfortable enough to take, but because they had amplification matrix, they took by a landslide. And suddenly you're missing your strongest ultimate that could have stopped the payload, and you're missing your strongest setup for the Deadeye. And
Yeah.
that was something that could have won you a fight. Graviton combined with Deadeye, even if one of them gets eaten, even if that Deadeye gets eaten by that Diva, it still chews out a massive amount of defense matrix and sets up your team to push in with the aggressive play. Instead, they find themselves putting in that Graviton and then getting staggered, and having that Reaper there, yes, it means that you have a little bit more mobility and you can move freely from who you want to challenge the front line and the back line. What does it do? It serves and echoes duplication up on a silver platter. Death
It does.
Blossom can be extremely hard to shut down if you don't have CC on your side or a defense matrix. And we saw that's exactly what happened. The Reaper gets copied, Death Blossom comes out on payload, and none of the bodies are enough to stop it from moving that little bit forward.
Well, you have to give it to Holy Warrior as well. You do see that the Death Blossom comes out on the side of Jurian, immediately gets stopped, immediately gets fired out there, and then it's just a copy the other side around. You see the stagger coming back in, and at that point, well, there's not much that you can do on Project Alpha. But all of that is the result of being halted so close after that first cap point, because it just basically, I could drink more in a single night and crawl that distance. Yeah, and it's that little of a distance that payload actually made it after that first cap point, and that is just mind-boggling, and it cannot happen when you're trying to win a game like this.
Yeah, but that is the past, and this is match point. If Benchwarmers walk away with this next map, which will be Hanamura, they win this series, Ollie. And if you're Alpha, you are retreating. You are hitting the panic button right now. You are running back to the composition where you were so strong on before. Pharmacy, Hanamura,
Yeah.
Pharmacy come hand in hand. No matter if you're attacking, no matter if you're defending, you can do an awful lot on that first point, because toughest thing about attacking Hanamura is moving through that courtyard, moving through those massive doors, that archway, and getting safely on to point to the place where we've actually seen teams commit to Symmetra strategies and May walls and go all sorts of ways through all side rooms and corridors and weird, wacky rotations so that they don't have to walk in a straight line onto point. And Pharmacy can provide a distraction while still finding the value, while still meaning that you're building up to an ultimate like a barrage that has that fear factor that doesn't come along with a symmetrical wall.
That's true. However, remember, Benchwarmers now warmed up Icarus and Shadow Titan, showing their worth. Icarus on that incredible McCree that we've seen in this last game and a half. Shadow Titan on the Echo. Once they were able to find the right way to circumvent that front line, to not take too many risks. Shadow Titans have actually turned me around. I have to say, I was a bit skeptical about them, and it's just beautiful what they've done in the game that we've seen so far. After a bit of an initial hiccup, let's put it this way. So if Benchwarmers can keep this up, I am not convinced that Project Alpha will be able to take this from the clutches of defeat just on the back of a Pharmacy.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Benchwarmers have gotten steadily better as this game has progressed, whereas Project Alpha, who started off so strong, who started off really dominating in those first maps, have sort of fallen away and disappeared into a shadow of themselves. So they want to get back to that momentum, to that potential that they had in those first original maps. So maybe they'll be able to find that life once again with that Pharmacy, but we're not seeing it. Remember, they are attacking, they can still swap this up, and looking at the composition, looking at the support lineup, if you don't field an Ana, even with the Genji changes coming through, it's still going to be exceptionally hard for Yugdosen to do anything with this Genji because there's so much CC available on the defending side, right? As soon as that Genji goes through, there's no one who can really dive with him. There he goes, off. It's a good choice because if the Genji had gone on himself into that defending team, it would have been absolute suicide.
Into this defending team, especially with Shadow Titan on that May, that will stop you in your treks quite easily. Now, Mr. Gummy holding it quite far and quite much in the direct firing range. A lot of Reinhardts, what you usually see is try to be more on the side of that gate, try to be more playing a corner, like especially with a May on your team. But Mr. Gummy deciding to go ahead first in, and now he's paying the price for it. Good May wall here on the other side, though. Icarus is able to get cat scratch after him being walled off. That was beautifully set up, and that also gives Mr. Gummy the time and the opportunity to come back. Code clips very low there. The self is actually being waited out, and then Icarus closes the door on it. In control right now, still Benchwarmers, even after losing their main tanker. That's impressive.
Shadows just waiting around for that next wall. Does get flashbang, but there is no follow-up. Ice Block out of the Nada, so she can aggress onto her. Her best chance at surviving is now denied for the couple of seconds. And after they need to start aggressing into this, but they're so scared, they're so hesitant, they're trying to bait out that wall. You can see it, they're dancing on the light ollies and not falling for it.
That's right, Mr. Gummy has to pull back, only on the sideline, took a bit of face damage, but is able to at least keep their team alive. And Mr. Gummy and Rice now pushing out there, pushing onto Project Alpha, who are essentially just standing still. What's going on?
They don't want to move in. You can see they're terrified of being put off by that May wall. And because they waited, well, they gave Benchwarmers the best shot at winning this next fight. Shadow has already got a Blizzard Bolt up, and you've got that immediate follow-up. You've got either a Shatter or a Deadeye that you can throw in on top of the mix if you even need it. You might go for an old-fashioned banana boost onto your Reinhardt and get that hammer swinging away because Project Alpha, they're so far away from the time barrier, they're not running that Diva. There is nothing they can do when that Blizzard comes down.
Oh, nice wall off. Once again, Code Clips just moving in all alone. The rest of the team holding, and now there's a pause. I expect that is the reason why they were standing still, that there is some technical issue on the team side, because they were absolutely inert over there in that corner. The only one still moving, Code Clips for a second. So we'll see what's happening on that thing. Because it didn't look like they were just throwing, right? So we'll see what's going on for a second. So Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of gameplay after this. There's not a lot to analyze yet on Hanamura, except for maybe the team compositions. I would say we wait for this team just to get their bearings back on. So get yourself a drink, go take a bit of a tinkle. I don't know, redo your makeup after laughing so hard or crying so hard, depending on which team you're here for, and we will be right back. And we are back. I hope you all have an empty bladder, a nice mascara, and a very, very good evening because we are ready to set this back up and to continue the game. We are very close to firing it in, and I must say, what I am seeing right now from Benchwarmers, I'm impressed. There's so much control here, even in this relatively low SR range, that they are, and so much communication in the way the walls come through and the follow up on that. So, Moxie, as someone who has ample experience in trying to organize some random teams into something a little bit coherent, how do you achieve something like that?
You need to just speed boost onto point. Honestly, you need to stop waiting around at the doors because that's where the May composition comes into its proper fruition, right? That's its final form. When you've got a choke that you're being held at and that wall just comes out and separates and Blizzard comes out and everyone's cramped up in this small space, guaranteed to pick up a couple of bodies. What you need to do is grab a Lucio, speed boost through, ignore the obstacles in your way, take the fight to point and set it up because you've got a graviton. You're going to have a bomb. You've already got a Deadeye as well. You just need to have the space to use it. And right now, if you just cramp yourself up, all you're going to do is build yourself your own coffin.
Well, we'll see whether or not that coffin can be reopened, and we're looking at the Night of the Living Dead, or whether or not this will be the final nail, as it is Project Alpha moving back into point, and this time they're going in with the full team. There's a Bob who is trying to do something. Good chatter on the side of Cat Scratch, on the sideline. Good high noon possibility there. UK Doston finds Shadow Tyson, and Jurian's Bob is doing something. Right now, Project Alpha showing that old school aggression. Only Oni is alive, has to be put away from the point, and that should be a handicap, and it is.
Choke is a very scary prospect for a lot of teams, but sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and walk forward. Trust in your team, your supports will have your back, especially if you've got a Moira, because Moira does so much healing when it cocomes to that collective group you have to be playing close together. That's where you find the real value. What you don't have, though, is snowball potential. Right now, Ollie, you're going to be shut down in this next fight because you're running into 3 ultimates and you have nothing. No survivability, no aggression to build everyone.
And once again, they're moving past the main wall. Diva Bomb coming in. Ikaros with a nice high noon. Triple kills it out while everyone is just focusing on that bomb. That is just a good one to play, where you set up on the one hand and execute with the other.
Cat Scratch really Diva bombs Reinhardt's at the moment. You need to be around your team, you need to have the shield there to save them all. You can't just rely on the map being there, being a little bit of a forgiving friend, especially with how open Hanamura Point B is. To Benchwarmers, they've still got an ultimate in the bag, Ollie. They've still got a Shatter, and Mr. Green Shatters have been huge in these last rounds. But you lost your main, and that's the Alpha moving in.
That's right, and they're just speed boosting straight in now. Project Alpha trying it. Good hold there on that Shatter. Shatter being blocked, I believe, actually by a bubble on Code Cliff, who was bubbling Cat Scratch, and now they are just moving and killing and moving. It's 3 versus 1 on point. The only one who is still there trying to hold out is Shadow Titan, but it should give them plenty of time to at least get someone back on point, and that someone is Wise on the ball right now. Ikaros swapped to a Tracer, also trying to hold it up. Second, third is already being set up. There's the counter Cat Scratch. Nice Shatter, and then a counter charge on that setup. Mr. Gummy going down. Ikaros going down as well as Cat Scratch finds another. No more immortality field on that side, and that Reinhardt is just firing in another Bob coming out of Jurian, and it looks like they can go all the way. It's 4 versus 2 onto point. There's 5 people still here for Project Alpha. Ikaros in time there with the recall, jumps back in, but gets executed. 1 minute 40 on the clock, but that was a good push. After they solved their issues, they just went for it and went for it hard, and that's how we like it.
Oh, Shadow going down. Losing the Mei was absolutely huge. Not just because you lose that threat that she poses, you can't go forward, you can't speed boost until you see that wall coming through. You've always got to be there to catch your Reinhardt if he goes a little bit too aggressively. But because it denies the Blizzard build-up Shadow Titan when they come back for that recontest, they're creeping towards it. They were at 80%, 90%. If they'd been alive when that fight kicked off instead of going down before it, Blizzard would have come out, and Project Alpha, they didn't have anything to shut it down. They didn't have that sign bar. Yippee didn't even have that coalescence. And even worse, when Shadow comes out a second time for the recontest and tries to put the Blizzard down, doesn't even manage to hit the ground. The corpse falls first.
The corpse falls first, and then everything else falls behind it. So that was a domino effect, a classic domino effect. Like you already said, you know, you see Shadow Titan going down, possibly being way too far up ahead. I didn't even know where he was at that point. And just goes down at that point. It's just, okay, we have a pick, speed boost all the way in. Cat Scratch can do his little dance, and there is nothing at that point, when you're up on the high ground and one person down, that you can do about that when you're fighting a coordinated team. So now for the defensive side, Project Alpha have to do that. We see Yuke Dosnin once again on the Junkrat. So we've seen him do that before on the control point. That was very heavy. So we'll see whether or not they can do that without the Mei and with the Junkrat holding it up for as long as their opponents of the Benchwarmers.
He's already 50% to that first tire early. That's where you go for the Junkrat control over the choke and an ultimate that builds up so quickly. Might not win you a fight, might only get one pick, but if you get one pick onto a support, the push is immediately prevented.
That's right, especially when you see that that you know the push is rather slow. Now they have seen the issue there. Holy Warrior actually swapping over to that Lucian. So we'll see whether or not that will give them a little bit more spring in their step.
Only swaps after the teeth onto the Mora. Survivability for yourself, sure, but not for your team. Not when Yutosen is 25% off this tire, and neither no mortality field getting a pick.
Yudosen finds Rise after being after they have been healed from that big robot, and that is just yeah, well, you hope as a mini diva to at least get a little bit out of that. Mr. Gumi had no shield at that point, was trying to get a fire strike in just to get that shatter off, and gets executed. So that was that was a tough setup for them, and a tough setup for the entirety of Benchwarmers, who have 2 minutes and 30 seconds still to go, and it doesn't look like they have a plan to go as of yet.
They need to go aggressively. They've got Tomorrow, they've got the Lucia. That means they have to press forward, but they're going to be pressing forward and switching the whole host of ults.
Oh, there's a shatter coming in. Doesn't really find a lot of targets. Holy Warrior, though, going down. You Dosman finds Shadow Titan on the sideline, and now you are just trapped in that little room. Mr. Gummy tries to get his team out of there, but Caesar is able to make that go away. That was beautifully played from those ladies.
And Project Alpha, they had so many ultimates in that fight, Ollie. They used 2. And they can just cycle through these 1 minute 50 seconds left on the bank. The Bench must even get a foot onto this point. They have this Shadow, they have this Jedi, they have to land a tough cat grab. So it's all up to that main tank. Has to be there, because if the Shadow comes down, Caesar has a nano boost, but that's only going to save the one person.
Well, we know that Mr. Gumi's shatters can be devastating if he's allowed to use them. So we'll see whether or not they actually let them. There we go. The double team is out. It's the Blizzard on the other side. You goes in with a nice tire. Takes down 2. The High Noon was there as well, coming out of Jurian, just to make sure that no one peeked their mouth out from the other side of that door. And right now, Alpha holding it nice and steady. 1 minute on the clock.
That was Benchwarmers' best bet. That Blizzard should have been huge. Alpha had nothing to try to defend against it apart from that tire, which deterred all of Benchwarmers from aggressing inside. And now you're coming towards that final fight. 50 seconds left on the bank, and because Project Alpha still held that nano, Cat Scratch is going to have the chance to build up this shatter and get that immediate follow-up that Mr. Gumi's just not going to be able to stand up against.
And right now we have an interesting poll that has been shown right here. Only 43% of the viewers right now believe that we're going to see a map 5, even though this looks terrifying, and that is a very, very good reason why that poll could be right. Rise with a triple kill, another one of the benchmark deep bombs that should be part of a highlight reel. If you need that, then Rise is there with a big boom and the cap. That was beautifully played here on the Benchwarmers side. There's 7 seconds to go, so very close to the overtime, and then you need to go all the way to point B. But the ultimates are there. They could be doing it.
They've got that snowball potential, Ollie. And if you're Project Alpha, you've got to walk into this. You can, if your Benchwarmers just speed boost straight onto that main front, you've got that time bar. You can go for the throat, move straight onto point, force Alpha to come to you, drop a Shadow, drop a Deadeye, but they're going to be trying to take the high ground away. And this is a risky play because it's burning up that time bank and allowing Gigdosen to spam down this corridor, get closer and closer to the fire that can shut this push down within moments.
That's right, Mr. Gummy jumping down from that little bit of the side stairs was maybe a bit of a waste of time. Having to wait for your main tank up there is always dangerous. Now the sound barrier coming out of there preemptively. Ikaru's firing in that Deadeye, trying to make sure that they have some room. Cat Scratch though tries to fire that shatter. It's very low and actually just gets focused down. Mr. Gummy finds Yippee on the sideline. There's a good shatter coming out from Mr. Gummy, and now they're just holding it. The first third already coming in. There's a tire. Only finds Oni. That could have been worse. Urian tries it with their own Deadeye, but is being pushed away by Holy Warrior, who's keeping those sightlines clear, and Cat Scratch has no way of actually surviving that, but does for some reason. Another Deeper Bomb coming out of Rise there is being blocked by Code Clip on the personal bubble. Beautifully played here by Cat Scratch and by Code Clip, who are able to stabilize the situation against all odds. 1 minute 30 on the clock.
Against all odds, because look at the supports that they're running. Lucio and Mercy, that's not a lot of healing. Ollie, so if you have that target focus on one person, they should be gone within a fraction of a second. But Caesar, even on that Lucio, is able to keep everyone up and alive. And though they've got a very small amount of sustainability, because Oni went down so early in that fight to that tire, well, Benchwarmers had half of the sustainability that was available for Alpha.
There we go with another attack. There it is. The Blizzard coming in. Cat Scratch is being caught out, trying to charge through it for some reason. Mr. Gummy very low for a second as another Shatter fires it in, but there's a res coming out. Yugdosin back on the board right now. And the same thing goes for Caesar, who is still alive. No, not for long. Mr. Gummy coming in with the charge, and that is it. The cap. Yugdosin just flying up a bit too far around to complete 1 minute versus 1 minute 53. So the time banks are close, and this entire game just took a whole nother level of closeness.
But remember how long it took Benchwarmers to break through choke on point A. And now they've got a minute, Ollie. A minute to get through that courtyard that kept them there for so long. And so you have to just go for that tactic of move straight on to point. Go for a composition where you build up ultimates quickly, because a minute, in Overwatch terms, that's about one decent fight and then a straggle. Just slugfest where everything gets put in as it comes online. That's not something that you want to have going on to try to take Hanamura.
Well, Hanamura, with that short of a time bank, the only thing you can do is try and brute force it. On the side of the Benchwarmers, we've seen that they had some issues with Hanamura in the last round. Now they need to. Now it is clutch time. It's, you know, it's crunch or go home.
Because they need it. If you look at Project Alpha, they may have a little bit less of a time bank, sure, but it's still 1 minute 53. That's still a whole bunch more fights than Benchwarmers are going to have access to. And if you're Alpha, you can go aggressive. You can try to build up charge. Cat Scratch with one fire strike is already 34% of the way to a shatter. And Gigdosen once again on this chunker. It's going to be the bane of Benchwarmers' existence. Right from the deep, it's trying to defend some of those mines as they come on through.
Yugdosen, though, getting caught out in that little side room, goes down. Same goes for Code Clip. So right now, Benchwarmers in a very good position. Caesar finds Holy Warrior on the sideline, but that still means that there should be enough healing for the Benchwarmers to actually make something happen. Jurian on the other side, though, finds Ikaros, but the Benchwarmers in a very good position here. The only one still there is Caesar. That should be the cap of at least the first third, and they are moving in for more. 20 seconds still on the clock. The Doom Fist coming in there. Dosen trying it, but Shadow Titan there with a handy laser right there. That is some laser Doomfist surgical removal right there. 7 seconds on the clock, 30 seconds right now, and we already see the Benchwarmers moving in from two sides as especially Rise is very close to the main, going below on that sideline, just making sure that they're waiting for the rest. The Coalescence coming in there, 20 seconds on the clock right away. Shadow Titan coming in from the flank, Shatter being blocked. Cat Crash, that's not something you want at this point of the stage, but Mr. Gumi misses his charge, at least for a second, has to fire it in from the sideline, needed it to reposition for a bit, and Mr. Gumi now asleep. That's a bit tough, very low on hit points right now, not being healed, only playing the DPS Moira for a second. It's 4 versus 2 on the point. Jurian and Ikaros, both of them with that high noon, just having a bit of a stand-up there. The overtime wave already running, 3 versus 2 on the point right now. Jurian is going down, and Shadow Titan finds it now. Good copy, the Zarya. Shadow Titan keeping Mr. Gumi alive for a bit. Right back in there, that's a Togelstein firing it in there. Only one target on the point, but it is that pesky Junkrat right now. Jurian on the soldier on that sideline, trying to make something happen. There's the ball coming in. Overtime Wick still running. 2 versus 3 on the point right now, and we do see that spawn advantage coming into full play right now as Jurian fires it in. Shadow Titan on the sideline gets that Mercy out though. There's the original Togelstein from the original Zarya on that sideline. We see 3 people already falling down. 1 versus 4 on the point right now. Holy Warrior goes too far behind it and leaves the point. Round 3 complete. What a fight.
Project Alpha, there was no pressure on the support. The Mercy was free to do whatever she done well pleased that entire contest. And what she done well pleased was not just keeping everyone alive, was not just damage boosting, it was rezzing the Junkrat. An inch off the point, Ollie, in plain view of the entirety of what remained of Benchwarmers on that point, and they let that res come through. They let the Junkrat come back into the fight, and suddenly all of that space that they should have been able to run away with on that point was completely cut down to about a tenth of what it could have been, because there were mines everywhere, there were traps everywhere, and we saw one of them, they even went down to the Junkrat death trap.
They did. That was. I still don't have words for the length of that. On the other side, I have to say, Benchwarmers stayed on that point very, very, very long. You know, you have to be coordinated and fire that, and with so many staggers coming in, at some point just being against the entire enemy team on Alpha side once again, right? And Benchwarmers just make sure that they send them back to spawn yet again, and then they get staggered again, of course, due to the spawn advantage, and it took a while and it dragged on for it, and at the end of the day they couldn't close it out on the side of Benchwarmers, but the way that they stand on there and stayed on there for very long was beautiful, and part of that was Shadow Titan's great copy.
Well, Project Alpha is looking to aggress onto Hanamura this time around. Juggerson is on to the Genji. We talked about how we want to see an Ana behind him, but it's going to be that Lucio, that Moira, so they're going to go push forward right now.
Yes, they do. Immediately, 3 picks on the back of that wall. Caesar also 1 HP. They were just playing with their food for a little bit. 1 minute 27 on the clock, and it is the Alpha squad that gets pushed back. And remember, they want that 5th map, so they need to win right now. It's match point for the Benchwarmers.
But there's not a lot of damage coming out from Alpha at the moment. It's very small chips. You've got on this Genji, Jurian on this Reaper. It's not that heavy hitting 2-tap that a McCree and an Ashe offers you. It's not the same power of control of a Mei and McCree combined.
Another good wall this time. Both of the tanks coming through. Most of the team on Team Alpha side is through, but so is that Shatter. Mr. Gumi gets Jurian out of it, and the rest of the team is there for the full collapse. The only one still in there, Dosen. Caesar had to pull back. Is actually able to pull back, and Rise gets the nano boost.
A little bit late. You know, you could probably definitely have used it in this next fight on to Gumi, because now Alpha, they're speeding towards what they've really wanted to build up in just 1 minute 53 seconds. This late, but it's not a nano blade, Ollie. It's not going to have that.
Ikaros trying it once again with that high noon, but actually gets gets the reflection back there. Dosen is able to just reflect it back onto him. And this time, it does look very good for Project Alpha. Jurian and Gippy find their targets even after they were walled off and were split up effectively by Shadow Titan. And they have made it back from the clutches of that. The overtime wig's still running. 5 people on the point. No one of the Benchwarmers even close. So they will get a little bit of time to get over there to point B.
Benchwarmers have a win condition right now, and that is to protect the Prime Minister. Shadow cannot go down before that blizzard comes out. Even better if you can get Caesar out of the way before it comes down with that sign there. That's the one thing that can really spoil this team's plan. But it's going to be tough. It's one fight territory.
Yeah, 15 seconds to go. One fight territory. There's the blizzard, and immediately a nice pickup. Sound barrier, though, coming in on the side of the Benchwarmers. Make sure that they are in a fighting condition. Rice finds Cat Scratch on the sideline, but so does Jurian. Find Mr. Gummy, which means that no main tank is on the board, and Jurian can move on onto that Diva. There is the ultimate. That is huge, and that can potentially win them the game. Great as Blossom here. Jurian picks up 3. Overtime we're still running. 4 versus 1 on the point. That shatter will not help you. They take it. They take it. It's crazy. Project Alpha wins this, and that means we're going into a map 5. I'm sorry, Paul, but we're not done here just yet. Hold on to your hats. Project Alpha, take it back for a clutch map 5.
That Gas Blossom should not have found the value that it did. And I saw the Diva there as well. Tried to defend her because it was boosting at the time, and I think the boost actually pushed the Reaper closer to the team, which meant that it only picked up more damage, more kills, more picks, and meant less point presence for the defenders. We're going all the way, Ollie, and it's going to be a close one because we've seen there are cracks coming from both of these guys. The Blizzard, that should have put a stop to all of this. When that Blizzard comes through, that should be game over. But Blizzard comes down, hardly anyone gets caught in it. They're far too preemptive. The sound barriers there, all of the health bars get bolstered up, and they've got the ultimates, they've got a Graviton, they've got a Shadow that they can just pile on top. And if you're Benchwarmers, you had a Blizzard, full stop. That was it.
Well, it looked like for a bit as if Benchwarmers, especially on the defensive side, right? They have been hot for the last 2 maps, but they overheated. They wanted too much too quickly. You see Mr. Gummy at some point is alone, tries to shatter it out. You see they shatter it into the into the balloon that was on Cat Scratch. Very good bubble there by Code Clips, in that first round. And here on that second little bit, it's just the nerves being fired in, and that means we're going back into control. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I'm very, very, very excited to see this. It's another 5 mapper. It's another one of those long games where Moxie and I get to spend some more time together with all of you fine people out there. And God, I hope you're as excited as I am, because these teams are playing their heart out on this fine Sunday night.
And if you're Alpha, this is exactly what you wanted. Not only do you have a chance of taking the series, it's a control map, Ollie. And where were Alpha strongest? The strongest we've seen them all this night? Control. Lijiang was where they shone. Oasis can be that second coming of this team where they can take the reins back and they can push Benchwarmers away, because Benchwarmers struggled to play around static points, struggled to play around chokeholds on Oasis. Well, that has them aplenty.
That's right. And do you know what else Oasis has? Rise's favorite thing. A lot of open spaces and a lot of spots where you can pinpoint accurately smart bomb with that Diva. It's absolutely crazy. It's just I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen. I have to go back though to that last game. Jurian with that Death Blossom saved them this game. And I want you all to look deep into the eyes of your DPS players and say, I know we often just give you shit for being a DPS player. We give you hell. We don't like you. But sometimes you just save us this map. And that's just exactly what happened. So, Jurian, props to you right there. We're going into map 5 in just a second. These teams need a bit to get ready, I believe. But I still want to ask you, Moxie, what can we expect from Oasis? What are you looking forward to? What are the things that would upset you if you saw them?
Okay, so Oasis is a mixed bag of maps, right? You take compositions based on what pops up in your screen, something that you can run on gardens and city centers. You can't necessarily go away with on university. And so the one thing that I will absolutely detest to see is if university pops up and we see a pharmacy. That is just something that immediately triggers me. People who think that they can play Farah on university. Hate to tell you there's a ceiling. There might be not be a ceiling fan there, but Farah still lose their heads if they fly up there tends to be to a McCree or to an Ash, and so what I personally adore is just University. You have that slugfest, you have that deathful composition rolling on through, pedal to the metal, Reinhardt, Zarya, Lucio, in you go. Out go the enemy team. Shatter gets built up, Graviton gets built up, you cycle through those ultimates, and every single person, I think Control Center is one of those where if you win that first fight, you set yourself up for some really clean fights to come. Not only do you have advantage when it comes to that take percentage, you don't have to worry about, oh, we need to get that point of pressure, we need to get that flip going through. You also
Yeah.
get to run away with how the map is set out. And how the map is set out on Oasis, it's probably one of the more punishing ones, and I think a lot of people really
Yeah.
sleep on how important parts of Oasis to hold on really can be. You look at University, you want to hold right before that point properly starts. You don't want to let them go in, otherwise the fight opens up so much further, so much more, and you can't just go for that spam damage composition where you're guaranteed if you look in the general direction of getting a couple of damage flashing up on your screen. And then you look at places like gardens, which are very much set out, but if you have that high ground,
Yeah.
oh, the map, the world, it's all your oyster.
That's right. And I'm wondering whether or not Yugdosnan is going to bring another one of these oyster knives straight in, because all three of them, good Pharaoh maps, maybe with the exception of University. I might give you that, but that fully depends on how they're going to position themselves. Um, so once again, the pressure up on on the DPS side of the Benchwarmers. Icarus, Shadow Titan have done a good job so far, getting back up on that horse after being absolutely slaughtered on that first control map, to be perfectly honest with you. They have picked themselves up by their bootstraps, moved themselves in there, and went, okay, we're DPS players, we got this, we're good, we're cool. So will they be able to hold that mindset after that Hanamura, well, frankly, giveaway? Or is it Project Alpha that now have the opportunity to show their superior DPS line? What do you think?
So the thing is, League Josen, if he plays the Hanzo, if he plays the Pharah, it's absolutely down to the DPS showdown. If he goes for the Junkrat, and if University pops up, Junkrat can be finding a whole amount of vibe with those small corridors, a lot of spam damage potential. If the Junkrat pops up, it's down to the tanks to deal with him. DPS, maybe they can get his head early on in the fight, absolutely huge. But it's going to be up to Rise, especially whether you're on the Diva, whether you're on the Zara, you have to be stopping the incoming spam with a bubble, with
Yeah.
that defense matrix. And so it's going to be interesting to see which map we head off to first, because the map is going to shape each of these compositions. It's not university, it's not city center, it's gardens. And so if we're going to be seeing something like a pharmacy, this is one of those maps where you really do expect Udoshin to be locking that one down, because that was something Benchwarmers struggled to shut down earlier on.
Well, we'll see whether or not they will have more fun here in the desert on Oasis. So 10 seconds to go. We will see what these teams will bring out. And we've had a poll that right now says that Team Alpha, 55% of the viewers actually say that Team Alpha could clutch this out. What do you think, Moxie? Who's going to take the cake on this?
Well, my opinion will be swayed by whoever comes out in this first fight. Because you win that first fight, you've got the advantage in ultimates, you've got the control of the high ground, especially when you go into gardens. If you've got the high ground, the point, it becomes a lot less about that positioning and much more about looking up how you approach, how you get into these fights. Because if you've got a Junkrat and you just there on that Junkrat, and you're sitting up on the high ground, you've got so much spam damage, you've got so much control that Benchwarmers are going to be forced to place into some spaces that they really don't want to be in, and that sets Cat Scratch and Code Eclipse up perfectly.
And we already see them move right in there. We see Alpha moving it up towards the high ground. Oh, nice boob try here on Rise on that sideline. Cat Scratch going down after Icarus had a bit of a sideline right there. And now the Benchwarmers moving all the way in there. Mr. Gummy, very, very aggressive. Has that Junkrat in the backline and needs to pull back. Icarus at the end of the day goes down there for a second. They're just trading it out, but Yugdosin is being arrested by Yippee, who knows what his win conditions are on that one. Mr. Gumi trying to keep his team safe right now. Shadow Titan being lasered down. That must be an interesting feeling. And there's our first tire. You guys and fight Tony on the sideline. Oh, just nanoseconds after that immortality field goes down. And right now, Team Alpha in a very good position. It's 5 versus 1. 24% on the side for the Benchwarmers, but that can flip quite quickly.
Field was far too early. Only checks it down as soon as he hears the Junkrat pop that voice line. It's when you see the tire that you want to throw it in, and Oni loses his life accordingly. Benchwarmers, he can still set them up nicely though, Ollie. He's got this amplification matrix, but the trouble is you're not in control of the point, you're not in control of the high ground, so if you plunk it down onto that main part, Alpha can just disengage and wait that one out.
And look at Caesar's positioning, just weaving from the back to the front, all the way back to the back, just looking for a good position to anti-nade right there. Now Shadow Titan with a copy right there. Icarus, nice high noon on the sideline, finds Caesar, finds Cat Scratch as well. There's the Tobalstein coming out there from Code Clips as well. A lot of ultimates being fired in there, but Icarus still is able to fight this fight, and it is just beautifully done. You see a lot of ultimates being committed, especially on the side of Alpha, and Benchwarmers come out on top regardless.
You know what I see? I see Yippee behind the grab that I've got 3 members of Benchwarmers caught up in it, rezzing Cat Scratch, buying the Rhine health bar back into the fight, earning 90% of the shatter and allowing Alpha to build 51% of the tick in their favor before Benchwarmers can properly kick them off. Yes, Mr. Gumi's going to have a shatter, and yes, it's going to be Project Alpha walking into it, but Caesar's got the nano boost, and that's power that Gumi cannot stand up to.
That's right, and that combined with those great anti-nades, Caesar is just making sure that his Gallic Wars are still up there. Ooh, Yippee very close to being just fired out by those sticky bombs. Shadow Titan in the backline trying to make something happen, but needs to pull back, knows that it's a bit too risky. Icarus able to kill the tire after killing a main tank. That is just beautifully set up, but now Yugdosin with a triple kill, a double kill on that exploding thing, goes for number 4 on Mr. Gumi and flips the point over practically solo, being damage boosted here by Yippee. Just gives that Junkrat that extra edge of power.
Almost have potential though in this next fight, Ollie. You can take up both of these angles. One goes main, one goes side. Reese with a Diva Bomb, Icarus with that. Did I pincer them up? Because Alpha, if you let them stew in this
Diva Bomb moving in there. Rise finds Yugdosin on the sideline right there. Code Clip coming in on the back as well. Fires in that double team, but there's an immortality field right there. Beautifully set up. Nigerians still had the opportunity to fire their own high noon after we already saw Icarus doing it. Cat Scratch, nice double kill, taking it up. 74% versus 88. Cat Scratch's ultimate doesn't really fight the target. Shadow Titan with a good copy, trying to extend this as much as they can. There's the shatter being blocked though, because Cat Scratch saw that miles away. Now Shadow Titan is still up there, still trying to find it out with that Reinhardt. The overtime week already running. Now it's 4 versus 5. 99% on the ticker for the Alphas. The Benchwarmers trying to push in desperately. 2 versus 3 right now. Icarus finds the target, but Mr. Gumi going down yet again as Yugdosin picks up Shadow Titan for a double. There's another tire coming in. Finds Icarus on that side. Finds that immortality field right there. And we do see Code Clip and Yugdosin trying to clear this point as much as they can. 1 versus 3 onto point. The overtime week still running. We do see Rezi jumping back down there with the help of Holy Warrior. They're extending it and extending it. This is like an Apple warranty. It does extend every single time. Julian on the sideline finds Rise. Then Mr. Megumi and Holy Warrior find their targets. Now it's 1 versus 2 on the point. Julian still tries to get rid of Holy Warrior. Has to reload though, and actually lets that poor or Lucio live for a second. Overtime is still running 3 versus 4, 4 versus 4 now here on the point, and both of the teams trying to stagger out Invested Ultimate. Cat Scratch finds Holy Warriors, but Ikaros on the backside immediately goes up to Caesar, but goes down to Yugdosen. 3 versus 5, good chatter from Cat Scratch. Rise is being stopped in his momentum by that, and this should be the moment that it flips out. This is the moment that it flips out. Alpha take the first map, but what a fight.
Oh my goodness. You have to ask yourself, what if Benchwarmers had access to ultimates when they were trickling in? Because that was what they were lacking in that fight, right? Alpha, they had the Tire, they had Graviton, they had Shadow, they had all of these things, Nano Boost as well, that they could just stack and stack and stack and stack every single time a new member from Benchwarmers tries to come for that recontest. Can just kick them off within mere moments. Doesn't let them build up. Rise swapping onto the Hammond doesn't even manage to pass 30% of the way to those Hammond mines before they're rejected off the point. And it just makes me wish if they'd swapped up their composition a little bit earlier, if they'd gone for that last fight, put all of their eggs into that basket, maybe they would have had a much better chance of staying on that point long enough to go for the flip.
Well, what you saw was that both of these teams, but especially the Benchwarmers, they staggered the ultimate. It's one ultimate being charged, it's being immediately thrown. Second ultimate being charged, it's being immediately thrown. So you can argue whether or not they actually needed that to survive that, but it did not do them any favor. So we'll see whether or not they can change that kind of approach once they're in control of this second point.
Caesar's still on this line, still doing so much, and there's nothing really that Benchwarmers have been able to do to shut him down.
Oh, nice sleep there from Caesar. That was beautiful. Rezi has to pull back there for a little bit of a second, and we do see Caesar in a nice bit of a fight. Shadow Titan picking up too, but still, Caesar fighting the Diva and almost getting away with it is absolutely crazy. We do see the Benchwarmers right now in control of the point, but have you seen that Caesar guy? I want to see more of that Caesar guy.
I mean, that's the first time that we've really seen Rise properly go to pressure the Ana, and that should be the Diva's job. You go in with your boosters, you go into the backline, you force the Ana into a position where her attention is drawn away from her team, so that everyone else moves onto the front line, can clap in when the resources just are not there to spare. And you need to keep doing that because Caesar's already got 91%. That's the amount of pressure this Ana can come under before.
Yes, and we do see it once again now, the Caesar squad moving it straight in! Have you seen that sleep on the coffee? What is that guy doing? That's crazy! Beautifully played! That was crazy! I'm sorry, I don't often lose my stuff over a sleep, but that? What the flying...
Flippity blackjacks! That was what Ollie is currently trying to process. It didn't win them the fight though. It was a beautiful sleep, but it did not win them the fight, and that's what they need. They need this flip because it's already 50% that they're up against Ollie, and Caesar's got this nano boost. The sleeps have been huge. The ultimate needs to be large. Yugdosen's waiting. He's got that blade. Oni needs to fall. That immortality field has to be out of that way before the ultimate gets combined.
Now we're moving straight in. The nano boost is ready, so Caesar is looking for something that they can do. The rest of the team instead, Cat Scratch though, is being knocked off and locked off by that nice Diva bomb on that little side lane. There's the Genji. Yugdosen takes down 4, does not even... Wow, doesn't stop at all. That is just sashimi on that side. And now the Caesar squad up on this pay. And, you know, the Benchwarmers, they need to, you know, get back from the cold. That was a long hold, but they just lost it.
But they've got ultimates to come in with, and Alpha just exhausted their entire supply. Jurian's going to be coming in to the snap off from 76%, but Rise is that. With that defense matrix and only that with that immortality field, they can counter ultimates that Alpha cannot.
Now the window of opportunity is up there. Shadow Titan trying to set it up. The same goes for Ikaros with... Oh, they just waited out and wait for that Reinhardt shield to go away, and suddenly Jurian and Cat Scratch go down, fall there to that high noon. We do see that Jurian still has that Death Blossom, goes for it, but actually gets moved out. Now there's an immortality field, and Jurian cannot find enough targets. The Benchwarmers are hell-bent on taking this out. 5 versus 2 on the point right now. This is just as tough as I would have imagined it. There's the Tobelstein taking on 2 more. Cat Scratch and Jurian still fighting it off. 1 versus 5 on the point. 56%. I would say, ladies and gentlemen of the Benchwarmers, just regroup. You have the time, and that's exactly what they need to right now.
They're going to be coming in with a host of ultimates, but what they've got to worry about once again, Ollie, and this is the real danger for the team, Nanoblade. And Yeetie even has Valkyrie, so if you want to double down on keeping that Genji alive, you can pop both support ultimates and he will be nigh unkillable, even if he gets shield bashed by Holy, even if that immortality shield comes down. We've seen Alpha have that focus. As soon as they see that Frisbee down on the ground, everyone on the side burns it out and lets the Genji go through.
Caesar has another nano boost, now needs to heal that repower because otherwise that is some bad news. We do see some nice aiming here by Caesar. Diva Bomb coming in but cannot be in any way pressure onto Caesar. Now Rise and Ikaros do find their target. Caesar finally goes down and now we can finally talk about the game again. Now it's 5 versus 1 on the point, the overtime we're running, and it does look like the Benchwarmers are going back into this. They're counter-capping it out and this should be, well, if they play their cards right, the Benchwarmers should have this. But look at that. The Nanoblade is up on the field for the Alpha Squad.
They managed to kill the Genji before he wanted to blade, which meant you've only delayed the problem. You've still got to deal with it. And you used a lot of ultimate in that last fight. The rally's already gone, so once again it falls to Oni with the immortality shield has to come in clutch.
Now the move is going in. Yugdosin finds Oni on the sideline with a nice blade. Goes for the fight with Holy Warrior and actually wins it. But Shadow Titan, nice double kill on the other side. Ikaros once again with a very good high noon takes it up. And this is the 1-1. We're going all the way, all the way. This is not just the overtime. This is not just the final map. It's the final round of the final map of the final everything. And now I want to see a 99 versus 99% counter-cap setup that lasts us 8 minutes. I need a heart attack in my life. And I think today is the day that these rookies can give me one. So let's go.
It's University as well. This is my favorite map on all of Oasis. This is your traditional Overwatch compositions. No dive, just that Reinhardt, that Zarya, that euphoria of being able to swing and hack and blast away as all of these fights get decided on the front line.
That's right, and we do see that the front line is the difference on both sides. Mr. Gummy, the better Reinhardt, but code clips on that Zarya? Crazy. Code clips on that Zarya is just something that keeps the Alpha Squad in this fight for the last 3 maps, actually. Otherwise, we would have already looked at a lot of advertising and, you know, whatever this channel hosts after they're done streaming. Mr. Gummy, though, finds Cat Scratch on the sideline after they have been locked up there and being walled off by Shadow Titan. Yugdosin and Code Clips moving in there. Only going down. Code Clips goes for another 2. Mr. Gummy and Holy Warrior both down. And Alpha once again in the driver's seat for this one. This is the first cap.
Benchwarmers should have had that. As soon as Cat Scratch goes down with a beautifully placed, clean wall from Shadow, you couldn't have asked for a better one. But then, even though the Reinhardt goes down, Alpha intrude in because the anti-nades, Ollie. You can't heal if you're anti-naded, and Alpha take advantage of that fact. And now, he was doing so much damage in that fight, he's already got played.
That's right, and there's another one of those nades trying to keep that team alive after some very good sticky bombs on Shadow Titan's side. Sleep doesn't really find a lot of target, but we do see Durin in trouble, immediately being healed up on that sideline. Very nice. Nano boost is very close to being attained, and Yugdosin already has that blade ready. So as soon as the Benchwarmers move in, there should be it. There's a Tobelstein, there is the Nano blade moving it in, and this is just a quadruple kill right there. Cat Scratch gets a bit of a fire in there, but Yugdosin closes the door. 45% on the clock. They had to run 3 ultimates, but it was no problem. Actually, only 2. They didn't use the Nano boost.
They didn't need to, because the anti-nade comes through. And that means no healing, full stop. Everyone in that Graviton got caught by the anti-nade. So Yugdosin just gets the full out of blade dry, and that means Cat Scratch gets a steroid available for when the cat comes down.
That shatter comes down, and they're trying to make something happen with that. Caesar still has that nano boost, so all the options to maybe get, for instance, that Reinhardt into a good position. He's very low, needs some healing. Shadow Titan there with that laser, closes the door on that. Both of the main tanks are down, both of the Reinhardts now in absolute Valhalla. 80% on the clock. Alpha. 1 versus 4 on the point right there. And now it's time for BW to move in. But Durian once again gets another Death Blossom in there, takes 3 down, and makes sure that this is not even being touched. Good shatter on the side of Mr. Gumi, who takes Durian and is now fighting the entire front line of Alpha by themselves before going down. Now 99%, no one there to touch it. And a bit anticlimactic, but Project Alpha take it from the clutches of defeat, turn it around, and take the win in a 3-2 epic bonanza.
And this has got to be the Genji cutting through that graviton. And oh, it's not. I hope that we got to see that anti-nade, because as an anime, I adore to see large anti-nades. But look, see, that Immortality could comes out, and as soon as you see it, bam, it's gone. Just blink and you'll miss it. Blink and you'll miss it, and there go Benchwarmers.
That was beautiful. That is sad. I must say I was a bit disappointed that it wasn't the one on University, because that had more intricacies in terms of the way that they played it, like the anti-nade, like you said earlier, but also the approach that the Genji made. You just see that Tobelstein and the Genji not jumping up, just flying straight in. No, actually, first dashes through, then launches the blade from the ground and goes back through it. Beautifully played, fantastic setup, fantastic execution right there. And there's one thing I need to say about both of these teams. Both of these teams have had their high points in one of these games. In all of these 5 games, you saw the Benchwarmers doing some crazy frontline stuff. You saw Project Alpha showing off that DPS setup. Both of the support lineups were equal in whatever they did. And I don't know. I know that there is a certain, how do you say it, fixation of one of the support players in one of the teams, but I'm actually not going to name them because, like Voldemort, it brings bad luck. No, but also because they were absolutely equal in that. And that is why I love Overwatch at this level so much. So, congratulations to the winner. Congratulations to both of these teams, because that was absolutely fantastic. Moxie, do you have anything to say about the game before we fire this out into the ether?
I mean, first of all, neither of these teams played like they were rookies. Both of these guys played like they were in the upper tiers of
Yeah.
Overwatch, in the upper tiers of this tournament. And you pointed it out, nail on the head. Both of these guys had insanely high moments, sometimes low moments, but insanely high moments. The diva bombs, the shatters, the blades, all of them. When the moment was right, it was just cherry on top, sugar coated, stellar, perfect highlight reel stuff that you expect to see. So big congratulations to Project Alpha, huge commiserations to Benchwarmers. But there's one thing that this team can really be happy with. They were so strong. I don't think it's
Yeah.
fair to say that the match was an easy take. It was close. It was one of the closest games that I have cast this year.
Yes, and one of the most, well, exciting ones to be sure. There
Blood
were some
pumping ones,
interesting
I'm
things
sure I can just
happening.
hype radiating through the webcam.
Well, I hope that is not just you, but that is the rest of the chat who can feel that hype, can feel the love for this game. So, ladies and gentlemen, that has been today's EU presentation of ELOL's Get Good Championship. There should be a schedule on the screen right now, which you can check out in order to find, whenever the next presentation will be. So for now, I can only say thank you to all the people I have rapped about earlier today. And yes, I mean that quite literally. It's Reef and Night of Knee on the cams, Zathon on the buttons, plush caps and caps lock over there in setting it up. With me, of course, the amazing Got Moxie, who has the analyst mind of a 9/11 terrorist fighter, and myself, the most stupid person in this place. I'm the Olamancer. This has been Get Good, and this has been absolutely fantastic. See you guys next time.